had not done.
One of my favorite quotes that I've picked up recently is from I can't think of the woman's name now. She's a famous Hollywood actress, and she was once asked if she would change anything in her life. She said, "Yeah, I would make the same mistakes again, just sooner." And I think that one of the mistakes that I did make in my life was fighting this idea of no longer being a carnival owner, of fighting the idea that there wasn't other things I could be doing. Probably delayed me getting to this point several years. I mean, I would be much farther along on my process as an author, a blogger, and a coach if I hadn't tried so hard to stay on the Carnival Midway, or if I hadn't fought so much. It took almost 2 years from the first time somebody called me an inspiration until I finally accepted that role and started blogging and posting as the Blind Blogger. So, there's a couple of examples where trying to hold that door open is what kept me from getting here or being even sooner or being farther along in the journey. I recently told somebody, I said, there's an old saying about how God won't close one door without opening another one. I said, but there ought to be an addition to that. It ought to say that if you won't let that first door close, that God will just burn the house down. And that's pretty much how I got out of the carnival business. I was forced out of it. That's it's how I finally started improving my health when the doctor said if I didn't get healthier that I would be dead shortly. We, for some reason, as human beings, we almost have to have crisis in order to make those big changes. And in my case, it was holding on to things longer than I should have would be the thing I would change if I could.
Yeah, I can relate in a lot of ways to that. Public speaking and doing podcasts, things of that sort, seminars and so forth. Yeah, I put that off for so long because I did not like getting up in front of groups. That was probably one of my biggest fears was, getting in front of groups. And so I've actually learned that this is my therapy. And so, I have, some extensive therapy that I go through, weekly now that put myself in the most uncomfortable situation. But I've also learned that, comfort zone does not give you success. You never find success in your comfort zone. You have to get outside of that place in order to find it. And so, it's been through hard agony and pain that I've had to learn, to get outside that comfort zone.
Yeah, I've actually had one speaker who saw me give my first talk, and she's like, "Max, there must be something wrong with you because you look like this is just another day. This is just another place. And you could not care less if you were standing in front of 100 people or 1,000 or nobody." And I'm like, I actually took offense to that. I was like, I don't know why they think I'm not worried. Maybe. And I started thinking about it, and I was like, the reason that public speaking doesn't really scare me is, one, I know that I'm basically just telling them my story. It's a story I've told many, many times in different formats. But the other thing is that I'm a real in the moment kind of person. So when I do an interview, I have to turn off all my technology because I just can't have those distractions. I have to focus on the person I'm talking to. And when I go up there to the microphone and give a speech, I'm thinking about, okay, I do not want to trip on the carpet on my own shoes. Okay, I do not want to fall off a stage. So I'm focused in on the person that's leading me or on my cane taps to make sure I get to where I'm supposed to be standing safely. That's my first thing. And then after that, I'm thinking about, okay, what is my first point? And I hardly ever even think about, the audience. Are they paying attention? Are they liking me? Usually I'm already on to my next topic before I even notice if they've laughed at my last joke, because I really, it's not exaggeration. I really have to be mindful. I have to be in the moment in order to stand there and give a talk, because there is, and I'm impressed by people who can give a talk off of a teleprompter or off of a prepared speech. I honestly don't know how you do it. How you're reading one thing and talking to people, and gauging their response, and just all of those different things at one time. I'm like, I'm sorry, it's all I can do to just stand here and think about what I'm going to say next. And as long as I do that, it doesn't seem to get scared or nervous from the audience. I mean, and I hope that doesn't make people mad at me. So, but it is all about being in the moment, treating everything as it's an experience. And I've been very fortunate that way. I recently had a friend tell me, he said, Max, most people I know, when they get scared of stuff, they run away from it. When you get scared of stuff, you run towards it. And I told him, I said, I kind of like that. I'm not exactly sure what you mean by it, because I don't see myself as a daredevil or especially brave or courageous. But I have people who are always telling me that I am, especially when they hear that I've traveled places by myself and plan to do that more.
Yeah, and you're not letting those fears stop you from moving forwards, and that's a really big key point, is that you don't let those things become stumbling blocks or hurdles to keep you from achieving what you want to. And speaking of hurdles,
it seems like more often than not,
So speaking of hurdles, what kind of hurdles when you were starting your particular business, like the blogging and being an author, what kind of hurdles did you have to overcome in order to get that going?
Right. Well, with the writing, I had written the book in response to a challenge to be part of an online summit. They wanted me to have a book to either give away or offer at a discount as part of being in the summit. And so I started writing it. And the writing went really easy. The problem was when it came time to edit it, and then when it came time to publish it. Because while I am I'm not generally scared of many things, I don't like roller coasters or high places. But I did go through that conversation that a lot of authors have with themselves, like, okay, are they going to like it? Are they going to read it? Are they going to think, why should we listen to him? Are they going to buy it? Is anybody going to be helped by this book? Is it going to embarrass me? Are people going to laugh at me because of, you have to have that conversation. And eventually, I had been showing the manuscript to a few people, and one of them finally said, Max, in this blog post, you mentioned that you work with an editor named Lorraine Regularly from Wording Well, who I think you've had on your show. So, Max, if you don't send this book off and get it edited and published, I'm going to send it for you. And so that was the end of the internal discussion, and I sent the book off and got it published. And I think it's helped a lot of people by writing it and getting it out there. But the thing I would tell any author is that I personally don't think it ever gets any easier. I think every time you send a manuscript off to edit it and then later to have it actually published to Amazon or CreateSpace, or for those who have traditional publishers, I think you're always going to have that fear. You're always going to have that conversation. And I think that a lot of people would do better if they didn't have this expectation that the fear goes away, because it really doesn't. You get better at dealing with it, but those gremlins, they don't go away. They may hide for a while. They may hang out in the cave, but when it comes to that moment of pressing send or publish on your latest book, they'll be back.
Yep.
And then on the blogging, originally I had a little trouble with the WordPress platform and using the screen reader, but somebody suggested I use a program called Mars Edit, which is a third-party app for people using a screen reader. It's only available for Mac. It's not available for Windows. But it allows you to basically write your blog posts as if they are just ordinary text documents. And then you click a few buttons and you can add your headings and your links and stuff. And you upload it. And it takes care of all the stuff about getting the post from your computer to the WordPress dashboard and having it show up like it's supposed to. And so that really helped me out a lot, because for a while I was a short blog post would take me an hour or more, and a long blog blog post might take me most of the day just to try to get it where I felt like it was a pretty good post that I feel proud of people seeing. So, it's one of those things that now that once you find the proper tools, then you get to practice, you do it enough times, then you get to where it's pretty easy. So those would be blogging and the publishing of the books.
So what is maybe a particular profession that's out there that you've perhaps entertained over the years that you might have thought, someday I'd like to do that? Is there something that you've sort of had in the back of your mind that if you weren't doing what you're doing, that you'd want to try that?
I'm lucky in that if I want to try something I haven't been doing before, there's nothing that stops me from doing it. I have had many, quote, coaches tell me, Mr. Ivey, you need to focus in on one or two things and just get rid of all this other foolishness, and you'll be much more successful, and you'll make a lot more money, and you'll be a lot happier. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm having fun doing it the way I'm doing it, where, sometimes I record videos of me singing. I've toyed with the idea of doing a presentation called Music and Motivation, where I would sing some songs and tell some stories and share some life lessons. And I've posted a couple of sample videos, and people seem to like the sample videos. Whether or not they would like a whole hour of it in person, I don't know. But, I have some friends in the UK who have invited me to come over there and visit and travel and spend some time sharing my message with people in the UK and Europe. So, I'd like to travel more. And sometimes things that come along that, well, that would be cool to do. They weren't necessarily my idea. They might be a suggestion from a friend, or maybe even a good old-fashioned double dog dare from a friend. It just and sometimes you do it and you're like, well, that was fun, let's do that again. Or this, I wouldn't do that again unless I host a podcast called What's Your Excuse, where I interview people about how they become the person they end up being. And hopefully someday we'll get you on the show. But when I first did it, I would only do it if I had somebody as a co-host with me to manage the technical side of things, so I could just have a conversation. But eventually now I can do the thing all by myself and enjoy doing it by myself, because I've found Zoom and I've found some tools that allow me to have a conversation without the technology and that sort of stuff intruding. So
sure.
That's one of those things I was like, yeah, I would do this, but only if. That's sometimes. So I would say the one thing I try to remember when it comes to these new ideas and these new challenges is that I try not to put limits on God, because a lot of times I've found that once I stop saying, okay, this is who I am, these are the things I do or that I'm going to do, once I stop saying that and allow other things to come in, then some amazing, crazy things happen, like becoming the blind blogger, like winning the Amtrak Rider in Residence and going off to New York, or, who knows what the next thing is going to be. I never know. I'm waiting to find out what my next adventure is going to be.
Yes, that's well said. Well said. So what would you say, Max, is your greatest strength as far as character traits? What's your greatest strength there?
I'm shameless. I have no filter. I have no barriers when it comes to asking people either for help or for opportunities. And I think this is one of those areas where I'm really helped out by the fact that I am blind. I have a disease where we knew at an early age I would eventually lose my vision. So all my life, people were telling me one of two things: Max, either look at the person you're talking to, or never be afraid to ask for help, because somebody will always want to help you, and you'll create more trouble for yourself by not asking. So
sure.
That, plus the fact that I was a carny for most of my life, I have had to ask people to come play games on the Midway. I've had to call people and cold call people for event bookings. So I'm really good at asking for stuff, and I'm doing my best to teach others